He's very good speaker. So inshallah, I hope you brothers enjoy it. Yeah, I hope you brothers and sisters enjoy it. Inshallah. So inshallah, we'll be late. Here's the brother Hafiz.
Salam Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. All the praises be to Allah, Lord of everything that exists. I ask Him to send His special peace and blessings upon the last of the prophets, Muhammad, and upon his family,
Salam Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
and upon his companions who were righteous. I also bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and He is alone and He has no partners. I also bear witness that Muhammad is His slave and His messenger.
Salam Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
Before I begin, I would like to thank this center for making a bold statement by establishing an English program on Saturday, inshallah. This is a good idea. You know, this inshallah, this will benefit a lot of brothers and sisters, inshallah. So I like to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless these brothers for coming up with this idea. This, like I said, this is a very important, this is a big step in Seattle, inshallah. Before I begin, well actually I'll just go ahead and start. The brother asked me to give a talk about unity. And when he asked me to talk about this particular subject, I looked in the Quran, an ayat popped in my head. And when I read the ayat, a whole lot of things just came to my head. So inshallah, I hope I have a continuous flow here and I don't get off the subject. But inshallah, let me read this particular ayat to you, inshallah. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Allah says, and hold fast by the covenant of Allah all together, and be this not unified. And remember Allah's favor to you when you were enemies. Then He united your hearts, so by His favor you became brothers. And you were on the brink of the pit of fire. Then He saved you from it. Thus Allah makes clear to you His messages that you may be guided. Now let's look at this ayah, inshallah. Right off the bat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to hold fast to the covenant of Allah. He says all together. And then after that, He says, and remember Allah's favor to you when you were enemies. Then He united your hearts. So by His favor, you became brothers. So what's happening in this particular ayat is He's saying that the key to the unity of the Muslims is the brotherhood. This is the key to the unity. So if we want to talk about unity, before we can even talk about that, we have to talk about brotherhood. We have to talk about community. We got to talk about things like that. Now, inshallah, there's another ayat popped in my head, thinking about community and thinking about unity. And it's in chapter 6, verse 38. Allah says, and there is no animal in the earth, nor a bird that flies on its two wings, but they are communities like yourselves. We have not neglected anything in this book. Then to your Lord will you all be gathered. Think about that. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here. He says that if you look at the animals, if you look at the animals on the ground, the animals in the sky, they form little ummas, communities. And He says, like you. Now, I'm sure all of us have seen, what's that show, Natural Geographic and Discovery Channel, when you see the animals and stuff like that. But there's two particular animals that Allah talks about in the Quran that I want to briefly talk about that. And one of them is like the ants. If you ever really paid attention to the ants, you would see that there's an ayat there for us. You see how well structured they are? You see how their community, everyone in the community flows towards a certain goal? You see how they treat each other too. You see, and even with the bee, the same thing. Matter of fact, when you look at the bee and you look at the ant and you look at any other animal for that sake, their structure, their community is sound. But once again, even how they even treat each other. So then Allah, so look at this. Because Allah says, and there is no animal in the earth, nor a bird that flies on its two wings, but they are communities like yourselves. We have not neglected anything in this book. Then to their Lord will you all be gathered. So when we look at their communities, we see that they're functional. So then now let's look at our communities. Let's think about that. The animals on the earth and the animals in the sky have better structure than the best of peoples on the planet. That's what Allah said about us. Didn't He say we're the best of peoples? We should really think about that. That animals treat each other better than we treat each other. Animals are more structured. We're supposed to be the crown of creation. But their community is more structured and more organized and more unified than us. This is an ayat for us. This is something that we should reflect on and think about. But let's talk about this brotherhood. There's a verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in chapter 49, He says, Inna ma'al mu'minina ikhwat. And the reason why I said that in Arabic is because in some of the translations, what it says is, it says, on this particular translation, it's a good one, it says the believers are brothers. But in some translations, it says the believers are like brothers. You see, or they're close to being brothers. But that's not what the Arabic says. Allah says, innama. You see, and I'm not going to get too much into the grammar, but basically what it's saying is that it's saying that, because inna means verily or truly, so it's stating a fact, and then when he puts the ma on there, what happens is now he's saying that it's this only particular type of way. So there's no other way. So there's nothing like about it. That's how it is. You see? So when he says that the believers are brothers, then the believers are brothers. There's no other way to look at it. You're not like brothers. No, you are brothers. So now brothers have to treat each other a certain type of way. Because this is what brothers do. You see? And our particular relationship is based on Iman. So we have to, because when you read later on in that verse, it starts talking about taqwa and things of that nature. I'm not going to get too much into that. But the reality of the matter is that there's a certain way that the brothers have to treat each other. And this is all based on Iman. So in other words, we're going to do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to do. You see? And there's many traditions, there's many Quranic ayats where Allah shows us how to treat each other. But there's one particular tradition that really touches me about the brotherhood. Now I'm sure some of you brothers heard this before, but I want us to think about this. Inshallah. It has been reported that the Prophet said, the Muslims are like the limb of a man, where if the eye hurts, the whole body feels the pain, and if the head hurts, the whole body feels the pain and suffering. This is talking about a type of closeness that the brothers of Iman should have towards each other. Let's check this. Let everybody in this particular center right here check his heart or her heart. When you watch the news, and you see some Muslims suffering, because how it is nowadays, you watch the news, you're going to see some Muslims suffering somewhere. How do you feel? Think about that. Did you know right now, Muslim somewhere is dying right now? A horrible death. Right now as we speak. Right now we're sitting here in the comforts of this nice center. It's nice and warm. And right now there's some Muslim somewhere that's cold, hungry, probably on the run for their lives. How do you feel about that? Does it upset you? Because if it doesn't, there's a problem. Or what about when the imam or someone or the emir stands up and he says that we're raising money for a brother, or something happened to a brother or a sister and we need to help them? How do you feel? You should feel something. If you don't feel nothing, there's something wrong. At least according to this tradition, this particular tradition. But we should think about that. And then the traditions go on and on and on about how the Muslims should support each other. And then the Prophet gave an example by putting his fingers together like this. We should support each other like bricks in a structure. We should ask ourselves, are we that way? How supportive are we of our communities, of our jama'ats? How supportive are we? If the emir talks about doing something, we need some brothers to volunteer, or we need some brothers to do something, what are you thinking? Let me just get right to the nitty-gritty. What will we say right now? Because right now in this room, there's Sunnis, there's Shiites, there's different, all types of everything. But we all believe in the Mahdi. Right? What will we say right now if he was to walk into this room right now? This is just a hypothetical. What will we say if he walked into this masjid right now? What will we say if he was to be like, what preparations have you made for me? What have you done? What are you doing? What are we going to say? What happened if he came in here right now, or in all different types of masjids? It's not this particular masjid. I don't want you brothers to think that I'm talking bad about this particular masjid. Because we have issues in all the masjids, and they're pretty much the same. But even in terms of structure, leadership, and things of that nature, what would we say if the Mahdi came in right now and asked, where's the leadership? Who's in charge? Who do I talk to? I got business to handle. Who do I talk to? Who do I go to? Where's he at? Where are they at? What are we going to do? Start looking at each other like this? Those are the things we should think about. We should ponder on those things. And like I said, those are just hypotheticals, but this is a point. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that we shouldn't hate each other.